Hello everyone, I'm Shrikant Tripathi and welcome to Veranda IAS. Now students, in today's session, we are actually going to discuss about History Foundation course. Now, the most important aspect of history is that it gives us a unique advantage, a unique information about what all has happened in the past. Now, with a specific reference towards our UPSC examination, history has a very important role. Now, in this foundation course, we will be talking about all those important values and the requirement of the subject. What should be your right approach in order to follow history when you are preparing for your UPSC examination? So students, let's start. Now see, when I'm talking about history, there are several facets, or you can say some various important aspects that you actually have to see and understand. Now, when I'm talking about history, I know most of us during our school time, whenever we used to discuss history, there used to be a reference with respect to dates, events that have happened in the past, important persons and personalities. Now, this was the significance of history that we have studied in our schools. Now, like we all know that UPSC is such an examination where people from every stream, whether it is humanities, whether it is commerce, whether it is science, they are coming and they are preparing. And students, when I'm saying history, so you have to actually understand that history is not just about dates or happenings that have taken place in the past. History gives you a very important, a very detailed idea of how actually civilizations started, how actually the present human form that we are seeing, they have developed. What were the various important events that actually brought a civilization into existence, how we have developed. Just imagine a situation when the prehistoric man had no resources. Even fire wasn't invented. Just imagine the first time fire must have been invented by someone. The importance of fire must have been realized. Similarly, if I say transportation, the actual beginning, or you can say the inception of transportation, it all got started with a wheel. Now, if we look at today's scenario, and if you look at a wheel, you'll find, okay, it's very common, it's very natural, it's very normal. But just imagine what importance or how much value wheel must have had at that point of time. The transportation, how easier it must have become. So students, whenever I say history, so it's not just about dates or the events. It's actually a subject that teaches you, that actually tells you that how we have developed ourselves, how from prehistoric ancient man to the present where we are living. Now, if we speak about the IT revolution, we are in the 5th generation sense. So if you look at that entire journey, what we have traveled, it is covered in history. Now, say some of the important aspects of history are also associated with various other subjects. Now, history is not just one particular topic. History has its relation, either you speak with economics, either you speak with science, either you speak with geography. Now, in the later half of the video, we will be discussing what exactly is the role of history with various other subjects. But one thing that is very important here, and it is that with history, there are total of very important 5 dimensions that we have to go through in our UPSC examination. In this preparation for your UPSC examination, we have to go through all those domains. Now, if you talk to me like history has a segment for ancient, medieval, modern, world history, and India after independence. Now, these 5 things, or you can say these 5 segments, are the ones that are actually required to be understood by the test taker in order to excel this examination. Now, students, when I say that we have to infer the scope of history in the stages of UPSC examination, see, if we speak about the UPSC examination, we know the pattern very well. Now, it's a 3-phase examination. We know that the first stage is preliminary examination, the second stage is the mains examination, and the third stage is your interviews, or you can say the personality test. Now, students, with reference to the previous year's pattern, like I'm talking collectively for the past 10 years. Now, in the past 10 years, the pattern has changed significantly with reference to the UPSC examination. The level of examination long back in 2011, 2012, it was comparatively simple, comparatively easier when we are looking at the present trend, and moreover, most importantly, I'm talking about the competition that you are facing. Back then in 2011, 2012, competition was always there in UPSC examination, but the kind of preparation, the attitude, it has changed significantly. So when you are preparing for your UPSC examination and when we are discussing about history, you have to also follow the same approach. See, the questions will not be asked to you directly like this: when was the third battle of Panipat fought? Or who was the one who actually introduced the Mughal Empire in the country? Now, such questions are something which were used to be asked in the previous, or you can say like almost 15 or 20 years before. Now, history has its own relevance. The questions which will be asked, they will be connected not just with history, but with other subjects as well. Similarly, when I'm talking with reference to the mains examination, the pattern has changed very much. Initially, you could have discussed, see, I'm giving a very good example. There is one segment that we will study in this history itself. The segment is of art and culture. Now, when I'm talking about art and culture questions weren't that prominent before 2014. But since 2014, what we have seen is that the questions that are coming from art and culture segment, their number has increased significantly. And every year, I can assure you, not less than 5 to 7 questions, every year are being asked in the prelims examination only and only from the art and culture segment. So, I'm not saying that this is new. The topic is very old, but the UPSC has actually shifted its interest from rest of the history, and they have actually started focusing on this segment. Now, 5 to 7 questions coming from art and culture segment in the prelims examination, and same you can expect in your mains examination. The number might vary. It might go 2 to 5 questions. So you have to see that what exactly is the direction that you are actually choosing for your preparation. The most important thing in UPSC preparation is that, students, you have to know what you have to study and what do you have to leave. Many people will come, many people will give you an idea. See, this is the book and you have to go through it. No, I don't have to go for anything irrelevant. When I am discussing the subject, the most important thing that I have to focus upon is when I'm putting my effort in order to study this particular thing, what exactly should be my approach? Okay? So, now, let's speak about the general importance of history. And here we will be talking about 2 important segments, that is the role of history in problem solving, and number 2, the role of history in ensuring development and progress. See, when I'm saying the role of history in problem solving, students, history gives you a very fair idea, a very fair idea. Or history actually teaches you that what should be your approach in order when you are facing some issues or some problem or there is a kind of conflict situation. Now, history has its own importance. Now, with reference to history, we have to see that whatever experiences we have from the past, they can definitely be used in the present scenario or in order to solve a particular problem. Also, students, history has a very significant role. See, like I said, from the prehistoric man to the present 5th-generation technology that we are in, this is a long way that we have traveled. Okay, this is a very long way that we have traveled. And always remember, there was a sense of development, there was always a faith or belief that yes, whatever we are facing today, we can definitely grow better, we can definitely do better. Now, this approach has actually made the humankind excel this much, right? Now, with reference to various other subjects, history has got its own importance. Like I'll say, fine, I'll be talking about connection of history with geography, polity, economics and science. Okay, let's say, first of all, history and geography. If I'm talking about the geopolitical boundaries with reference to India itself. Now, I know if we have gone through the NCERTs, now we can say that the Kushanas dynasty, it was one dynasty under which both Kabul and Kandahar, they came under Indian territory. Now, if I ask you, after the Kushanas, who was the next ruler? Who was the next ruler that actually brought Kabul and Kandahar to the Indian Empire? So your answer would be Babur. Now, there is one very significant question if I ask you with reference to geography. Now, you must have thought this question a lot many times. The question is, Battle of Panipat 1, Battle of Panipat 2, Battle of Panipat 3. Now, what specific was there at Panipat? Why all these important battles and why every battle that was fought in Panipat actually changed the geography, or you can say the geopolitical situation in India? So that's exactly how you could relate history with geography. Now, you just imagine the third battle of Panipat, it was fought between the Marathas. Marathas traveled from Pune and Ahmad Shah Abdali, who traveled from Kabul. They met where? They met at Panipat. Now, what was the importance of Panipat? So that actually would be taught by history, that what was the value, what was the reason, why Panipat was the place that was chosen for all these battles, and why, if one person has lost the battle of Panipat, why it became very easy for the winner to get its control over New Delhi. However, New Delhi for today, it was Delhi back then. Similarly, if I speak about history's connection with polity, yes, obviously, everything that has happened. See, I'll give you a very small example with reference to polity. Now, we all know there was a Constituent Assembly. Okay, there was a Constituent Assembly and its first meeting took place on 9th of December 1946. We all know that India adopted its constitution on 26th of January 1950. But guys, do you know that there are various important aspects of Government of India Act 1935 that were actually taken and were inculcated into the present constitution that we are having? If we speak about with reference to our history, the Indian Penal Code that we are following, it is from the Police Manual of 1861. Similarly, there are various other things that actually we have taken from the past, and it has got its relevance with polity. So yes, here you can connect the relation between history and polity. Now, with reference to history's connection with economics, obviously one of the most important things, why all these wars have taken place, why, how actually, what were these trading companies, what was the reason why Vasco da Gama came to India, why East India Company came. Their purpose was what? Their purpose was in order to improve their economy. Money making was their main agenda. Later on, when they saw that there is no apt ruler in this country, so why don't we rule India? Rather than becoming a normal businessman, why don't we become the complete proprietor of this entire territory? So yes, here you can draw a relation between history and economics. Similarly, history's connection with science. See, science is something which actually calls for a right IQ, a right approach, a right aptitude. Now, when I'm speaking with reference to science, one thing that is to be understood, all the important scientists, whether in India or whether abroad, whether I'm speaking about Ramanujam or whether I'm talking about Bhaskaracharya, whether I'm talking about Galileo, whether I'm talking about Newton, somewhere down the line, you have to see that history has its own relevance. If I'm talking about important rulers, specifically if I'm talking about the Mughal rulers, so Mughal rulers, they were so much enchanted by the idea of astronomy. There have been so many calculations in the past, and there are given examples where we can directly see that yes, the calculations, the panchang that was created by our astrologers, the calculation, or you can say the astronomical calculation that were made by Ramanujam and Bhaskaracharya, they were found apt. So here we can also deduce the relation between history and science. Changes that have happened in the past, now we are seeing its influence in today's modern world. There were many such things. There were many such examples. You know, I'm quoting Max Muller here. Now, Max Muller, when he was a great German philosopher, and he helped Germany big time in order to improve their defense technology, especially before the First World War. So when somebody asked Max Muller that what is the source of your information, from where actually are you getting this entire information, he gave a very simple idea. He said, I went and I read the entire Hindu literature, and specifically he said, I went through Puranas, I went through the Upanishads, and I have got all that information. I have got all those ideas from the Upanishads and the Puranas. So you can see that what exactly is the importance of these Puranas, Upanishads, etc. The problem today that we are facing is we actually don't have a right connection because we don't have the right teachers. Now we are following a different pattern, but there was a time when there was a Gurukul pattern. So in Gurukul pattern, all these things were taught. But now it has become something sort of mystery, and we have actually started calling it mythology. So calling this thing as mythology won't be appropriate. Just because we don't understand it, it doesn't mean that it does not exist or it is something which is just imaginary. Okay? Now, let's talk about history, or you can say the importance of history with reference to your prelims examination. Now, students, we know that in the paper 1 of your examination, I'm talking about GS1, we have a sum total of 100 questions. Now, guys, with reference to history as a subject, I'll say that out of this 100, almost around 10 to 15 questions will come from this particular segment of history where we have to pay a very deep dedication to modern history, medieval history, ancient, as well as art and culture. Now see, students, when I speak with reference to the level of questions that have been asked in the previous year's examination, and I'm talking about past, if you look at past 4 or 5 years with reference to history as a subject, the level of questions has been average. That means if you're putting your 100% efforts, if you have read the NCERTs carefully, if you have read the reference books carefully, and moreover, if you're paying attention to these classes and the notes that are being provided to you, I can say this thing with 100% guarantee that only these sessions and the notes that are being provided will be 100% sufficient for clearing the questions that are coming with reference to history in the prelims examination. Now, students, with reference to the mains examination, now we know that there are 20 questions that would be asked. Now, out of these 20 questions, at least 10 questions would come from this segment of history. Now, here, two important segments would be added: the segment of world history and the segment of India after independence. Now, students, these particular topics, they are very important when it comes to your answer writing, or you can say the mains examination. Very important to know that world history and India after independence are not covered in your prelims examination. They are only covered in your mains examination. So what we have to focus upon is that our answer writing abilities. Okay, we have to focus, we have to work upon our answer writing abilities. 50%, okay, 50% of the paper will be comprising of history, and the rest 50% would be geography and Indian society. So you can see the importance of history as a subject here in your mains examination as well as your prelims examination. Okay. So students, this was with the first session today. Thank you very much.